Welcome to the Beyond Divorce, Embracing Change podcast. My name is Michael Flores, and I will be your host while we explore the complex journey of divorce with empathy, insight, and practical knowledge. Whether you're contemplating separation, in a divorce, or looking for support post-divorce, our episodes provide expert guidance, stories, and strategies to help you through every step of the process. We are actual therapists, helping clients who sit on our couches every day through their difficulties of divorce. You are not alone. Join us as we delve in and find solutions that give you hope again. We're glad you're here.
This podcast is not intended to replace legal or personal help. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Welcome to the show, everyone. We're back with Armando here on Beyond Divorce, Embracing Change. Armando is... Are you excited, Armando?
I'm very excited.
Are you?
I am.
Okay.
I am excited. This is my excited face.
Okay.
For those of us watching on YouTube.
Well, when you brought this topic up, we were in the conference room. We were having lunch. All of us were having lunch together. We were talking about some ideas, and I really like this one because it does come up probably more frequently than I can remember. Or it's something not told to us, and then later on we discover, oh, there was an alternative goal.
Yes.
And so what is, you don't have to say the title specifically, but what are we capturing in this episode?
So what we're going to discuss today is when a client's goal doesn't necessarily align with a therapist, particularly in the court-ordered therapy.
What we're really saying is when the court orders a specific type of counseling they want to be done,
mm-hmm.
but the client or the parent in this case, or the client, I guess
or
the kiddo,
mm-hmm.
yeah, doesn't agree or align with that order or
yes.
that. Okay. That is the therapist's role to do. Okay.
Right. So you're starting therapy without knowing all the information, and you're moving one direction, and they want to go a different direction. And so that's always...
This is fun.
That's always interesting how that plays out.
Yeah.
In the counseling room.
So what do you suppose our audience will benefit most from listening to this episode?
I think my hope is for our audience to really think about, okay, when I am, whether it's court-ordered counseling, whether it's just regular counseling, whether it's your kids are in counseling, you're in marriage counseling, what are my goals? And am I being clear with them, with the professional that's trying to help us?
Oh, what are my goals?
Mm-hmm.
Am I being clear
mm-hmm.
about those with the professionals designed to help? I like that.
If you give me, if we're trying to fix a house and you're giving me the tools, but the tools are broken, but I don't know they're broken, and you know they're broken, we're going to run into problems down the road.
I told Jadon in an episode, I said, it's like having a hammer with no nails.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then she said, what did she say? She said, it's like hitting wood. You just didn't it. That wood's funny. Not sticking together.
It's not going together.
You didn't give me the nails.
I mean, to some point it is that. It's that we're not moving in that direction. If I'm supposed to build a birdhouse, but you want a doghouse, it kind of looks the same, but there's a scale issue because we don't know what we're working with. We don't know what the goal is. It might look the same at a certain parts, but then once we put it together, it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't look that way.
Do we learn, maybe this will help listeners understand kind of what we're experiencing, do we learn about that when things break down, or do we learn about it because as we proceed forward, something comes up and we go, oh, so the goal you weren't really aligned with?
Yes to both those things. Because I've experienced both of those.
Yeah,
I've experienced both of those where, you're a couple sessions in and you're like, oh, you don't want this to work.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the first part of this. You have here, there's different types.
Right.
So you said family, co-parenting, reunification, individual. What are you meaning different types of goals?
Well, different types of counseling. So like
there it is.
When we have clients that come to us that are court ordered,
Mm-hmm.
there's a variety of reasons or things that the court is expecting or is asking us to provide. So that might look like general family counseling for everybody, all the parties involved. It might look like co-parenting. The two parents don't get along, so we got to put them in a room and try and coordinate with them. Reunification, where the idea is that the child doesn't have a great relationship with one of the parents and you're trying to reestablish a relationship. To what end? That's always in question.
Mm-hmm.
And then just individual counseling for either a child or a parent that may be struggling and needs that additional assistance or help.
This is literally the 4 reasons people get court-ordered counseling. It's usually one of these 4. Yeah. So family, co-parenting, reunification, or individual.
And I think here in our office, I think we do all of that. I mean,
I have, yeah.
I was going to say I have all of those things on my caseload currently.
I've shifted into other roles. Like I've started with one and then worked through it and then realized, okay, so we've done this part, but now this part has to, right?
And I think that's I'm going to give you a compliment. So, and not to roll my eyes at you, but I think that's a sign of a good therapist is that you be flexible. What is the need of the party? What is the need of the family that you're serving?
Yeah.
Okay, it's supposed to be individual, but really there's a breakdown between the parents. So if we keep talking about the parents and the parents being problematic, why would we not put the parents in a room together?
There you go.
Why would we not do that?
Yeah.
So I think that's a good sign of a good therapist who can be flexible and roll with it.
Do you think that people already have in their mind the idea of what the solution is?
Yes.
Yeah, I do too.
And I think they have in their mind what they think our job is, like what our role is.
They're coming in with preconceived ideas. This is what will solve this, and this is what your role is.
Yes.
And we're going, let's talk through all that.
Yes. Because, why are you asking all these questions? Just write the letter and send it to my attorney.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing?
I love that.
Why am I spending all this money to see you multiple times, a month? Just write the letter. And I think that gets into really where the misalignment happens, where we don't align.
Uh-huh.
So I think some of the misalignment is that advocacy, like you're supposed to advocate for my child.
Mm.
And it's, well, no, we're doing family dynamics. We're looking at what's going on in the family. We're trying to figure out what's happening. I'm not automatically going to jump in and do exactly what the child wants because that may not be in their best interest.
Yeah. And I'm going to see if you know how I say it.
Okay.
How do I say it? If you've heard me before, how do I say it to the families? Usually when I talk about when the kids come in and they want to tell me how they want things to be and they want we always hear that we want our kid to have
we want them to have a voice.
And my response is always,
only when they agree with you or even when they disagree with you, do you want them to have a voice?
Well, yeah, I get there sometimes.
Oh, maybe those are just the sessions I've been
No, you're good. It's if you're aligned with your child, then them having a voice makes sense. But if you're disaligned, right, or misaligned, however you want to say it, with your child, then you start kind of going, well, hold on, I don't know if I want them to have that voice. I did this to a parent just the other day because
I want them to have the voice of what I want them to say.
Yeah, or I'm in agreement of what they're saying, and I want that to happen too. So what I've done is I did this once. So I'll have a kid that may be rejecting a parent. So like they're rejecting their mom, let's say in this case. And so dad comes in and dad's all about it. He's like all about, hey, they're rejecting mom. They have their issues, blah, blah. And they'll do I'm out of it. I want to stay out of it. But there's the history that the mom wants to tell me about where they weren't out of it. But now that everyone's kind of pulled it to light, they're like, now I'm out. Now I'm going to be neutral. But the damage is done, right? Like I've already hammered away at the wood and dented it up enough.
Right.
Maybe. So here's what I've done in that situation. I'll say, so you want the kids to have a voice, which is really what they're saying is have a say-so. They're really meaning choice. So my line is they have a voice. They don't have a choice. The choice is either by parental agreement or court order. That's how it always ends, right?
That's how I've seen it.
So when parents don't agree, the court does it.
Then that's why you go to the court. You can't agree on this, so
we can't figure this out on our own. I think this is the best option. The other one says this is the best option. We have a court hearing over, and the judge goes, "Here's the option. Here's what we're doing."
Yep.
And you might both walk out, not necessarily with a loss. I don't want to say lose, but you both walk out with, "Well, that didn't go how I thought."
I mean, that's what happens. I tell parents that all the time. It's like you're going to let this nice person in a robe decide for you when they don't know your child. They may
at all.
They maybe had a 10, 15-minute conversation with the child one time if somebody motioned for that to happen.
And that's typically already when things have already progressed. That's not like step 1. That's like step 50. So no, I was going to say, going back to that, I think that I've had to tell parents, like, I want them to have voice. I just don't want them to confuse it with choice.
Right.
So they have a voice, not a choice. They have an opinion, not a decision.
Right.
Right.
And I think kids get that also. I've had tons of kids come into my office and say, well, when I'm 12, I get to decide. Well, who told you that? Well, they did. That's what they say. They are misinforming you. That's not how this goes.
Yeah, they think that because they can speak, they'll have a... Yeah.
Right. And then when do I get to choose? When you're 18?
You said this before.
Oh, yeah, I say that all the time. I look at a kid, I was like, when you're 18? And they're like, well, that's unfair. And it is. Agreed. I agree with you.
I remember wanting to do things different than my parents when I was a teenager, and I wasn't 18 yet. Yeah, I didn't get to do them either.
Mm-hmm.
I remember with a car I wanted, I didn't get the car that I hoped for.
Right.
Right. Trying to think of the other things I did. Oh, I didn't want to pay for my car. I had to pay for it. I had to pay for the car payment. The parents took care of the insurance until I paid it off. But the point is, yeah, I had a lot of things I wanted to go way different. And my parents said, that's not how that works. What about, here's a good one. What about school?
Well, I think that's part of it is they want, where do they go to school? I don't want to go to school. If they don't want to go to school, do you make them go to school? Yes. So it's the same thing about...
How's this any different?
Yeah.
Because I align with them.
Because, yeah, and I think there's some nuance to it because I've used that example and I've
the school one.
The school one with parents, and we've had a whole discussion of what that looks like. But that goes back to the point of parents wanting us to be advocates for the child as opposed to being therapists, which is working on the whole family system and dynamics.
Is this what you're talking about in this, when the goals do not align with the therapist?
There's a misunderstanding of what the role is, what the job is, and what my expectation is coming into this.
So what is our job? When we get court ordered to do family counseling, co-parenting counseling, reunification counseling, or individual counseling, can you describe this is what that means?
I think it means we are there to support the emotional well-being of a child.
Mm-hmm.
We're there to assist where we can. If it's about reunification, then it's about the relationship as best we can. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, yeah, I tried my best, and sometimes it's just not there.
I've said, just to piggyback off that, I've said, I can't control relationships. Either you will agree on time or the court will order time.
Right.
Because no one can force someone to have a relationship.
Right. I think one of our biggest jobs, part of this, is facilitating conversations with people that have never had the opportunity to speak or feel like they've been heard.
Say more on that.
Well, think about how many times you have a kid or a co-parent or an individual come in, and what do they want? They just want to be heard.
Yeah.
They just want to be heard. They just want their voices heard. Again, you may not get a choice, but you can use your voice. And so I think that's part of our job. And sometimes I've told people, I get it. You're right. I agree with you. From your perspective, I understand where it's coming from. That's not how it works. That can't happen.
How do they respond to that? They see that you're hearing them, you understand their perspective. You're like, I got it. They're validating it to you, saying, yes, I can tell that you have it. So we're in a good place here. And then you have to say, however, that's not how this works. How do they respond to
I
that?
think most of my clients, when we get to that point, most of them, I have good rapport with them. And so they're kind of like, yeah, they get it. Right. I think
They get there.
They get there. I think they're commiserating in that moment, just being sad. And it's just like, oh, it's like, yeah, but look at what we do have. Look at our options. Look at what we do have. And that kind of goes into, it's not just the parents, but also children sometimes. Their goals are different. If it's about reunification and I'm supposed to reunify with this parent, I really don't like this person. I really don't want to be with this person. That goal is not aligned with what the court says. Kid the other day, not too long ago, say, well, the court doesn't know my dad. He doesn't know anything about him. So if they did, they would know better. It's like, well, I don't know your dad either. Tell me about him.
Interesting. It's almost like if this information was presented,
right,
then they would rule differently on this deal.
Mm-hmm. They would understand something different. I mean, how many times have you heard from a kid, well, they're just doing that to look good? Like they're just acting, the parent is just acting this way.
I've heard from a kid. I heard from a parent the other day. You know what I said to that comment? I said, do you think anybody really walks in my office that's court ordered that shows me who they really are? You think anybody does that?
Mm-hmm.
And they both come look at me like, oh, touche.
Right.
Because they know they're both doing it.
Yeah.
You're saying they're doing it, but then I'll get the, oh no, I'm an open book. I can be. And then if I start pressing that.
Mm-hmm. How open are you really?
I think the thing I would say for us therapists, it seems, I am never opposed to someone coming in and say, I don't agree with this court order. This is what I really want. This is not what the court order says. I can work with that. But if I'm having to find out later that you never were in alignment with this thing, but yet we have this job I'm supposed to do, you're going to think I'm working against you the entire time. And I never was.
And I think that's where you're jumping ahead. But that's,
I'm sorry.
You're jumping ahead on how to realign, but we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get
I'm
there.
solution-oriented, bro.
But we're going to get there.
Okay, go ahead.
But that's part of it, is that making sure that you're having that, what is the role, right? Going over there. Like, I understand you don't like your dad. I understand you don't like your mom. I understand there's some history there. We got to give it a chance, because someone in a robe somewhere said that you got to do it, and they ordered you to do it. How do we make the best of this time?
Well, I look at it this perspective too. Like, if it doesn't get any better and you did really put good faith into it, like you really did make an effort and it didn't get any better, you don't have to prove anything anymore.
Well, what do you have to lose?
Nothing. It's the same.
And that's what I tell kids all the time, is I say, look, let's look at our options. You come in here, the parent says all the right things, they do all the right things, and eventually they're going to mess up eventually. If they're truly not changing, they're going to show it up. They're going to show themselves out, and trust me that I'm good enough to sniff it out, and then we can call them out on it. And then somebody can say, you know what, kid was right. This is how this parent is. Or they come in here and they act exactly like you say they're going to act. They're going to show out. They're going to be rude. They're going to, cool, kid was right. Or maybe they really have learned. Maybe they are wanting to change. Maybe they do change, and you get a parent. Wow. What do you have to lose? You have everything to gain and nothing to lose.
What do you get from that when you go over that like that?
They usually look at me and they're like, huh, okay, we can try this guy. And they're usually down to try a little bit.
Huh. It's funny how that happens. You just kind of go, before we make a full-on decision of what you're going to do, why don't we walk through it for a second? I like that.
I am very, especially with my teens, I'm very like, look, I know you don't want to be here. Well, these are the options. Let's see what happens.
Yep. So we kind of jumped around here, but I think we've hit the middle part. Let's go through.
Well, there's one more misalignment that I want to talk about.
Go over it.
When it's not about counseling and it's about money.
Oh, tell me more.
How many times have we had where we're working on something and we're building that relationship, and money keeps coming up in the topic, and it's about money and money? Can we solve anything about money?
No.
I mean, I can't.
No.
I mean, I'm welcome to try. If you want to give me money, I am welcome to try and handle problems of money with having too much of it.
It makes me sad, because there is a huge financial burden to divorce. Huge. You take a personal hit, then you take the hit of going to divorce because lawyers aren't cheap. Then you got to go to counseling, probably pay for that. I mean, like, literally, these people take a massive blow to their finances.
Hate is expensive.
That's a shirt, isn't it?
It should be. It's not. Coming soon. But embracing change merch.
There you go. There. Well, it's just a reminder that you're right, because then that's the alternative. But what parent's going to come sit down with us and say, oh, by the way, if this ends up working out, I'm going to be in a really big pickle, because the child support's not going to go up. We're just going to stay the same, or I'm going to have to pay child support instead.
Or I'm going to lose child support.
Or I'm going to lose it. And so, but they're not telling us that.
They're not. But it comes up. I feel like that is something that I've never had anybody be upfront about that, but I definitely have heard. I've heard it eventually. Like, I'll never forget. This was a couple of years ago. I was talking to two attorneys about, they were going to mediation, and we were having a conversation, and I said, oh yeah, they were disagreeing. The kid was telling me how the parents were disagreeing on how much the house was appraised for. Kid said it was this. He said dad said it was this. Mom said that it was like $20,000 more. And I was giving them exact like quotes of how much money, and both attorneys go, well, don't love that you know that. Don't love that the kid knows that. And so it was about money.
It's about money.
It was all about money.
What do we do in that situation?
I will kick it back to them and say, I can't help you with this. You're talking about finances. This is not a bank. I'm not Wall Street. I cannot help you with that.
How does your money situation impact the best interest of your child?
Oh, that's a good way to do that.
I don't know if I'd ask it like that. I mean, if you were that honest with me, I probably would ask you a really good question to help you really kind of think through it. Like, I'm so helpful if I'm used to do such. Can I say it that way? I'm very helpful if I'm used that way.
And I think there's a way of untangling if it's about money, or if it's about like, oh, the quality of life for a child is going to be impacted, which is true. but like what quality of life? I think there are degrees of quality of life using the
Yep.
credit card at Neiman's for back to school shopping every quarter.
Yes.
A little bit different than we're gonna have to sell the house and I don't know where we're gonna go. So but there's a nuance to that. There's more to that, but very rarely does that come up until later, and then it becomes a fight about money. And there's nothing worse than a kid telling you about the money problems that the parents have or the child support that they have.
Would you be opposed to a parent having a meeting with you, either with the other parent or on their own, and saying, I need to talk to you about where I really stand on this deal?
Oh, no. I've had that happen.
And what difference did it make when it happened?
We were able to use it as a vulnerability to say, look, they were vulnerable enough to ask you about this or bring up the money situation, because that is rough. That is a hard conversation for most people to have.
100%.
And let alone your ex.
Yeah.
To have that conversation about, hey, this child support is hurting me this way, or hey, this is impacting me this way.
Yeah.
How do we have that conversation? So I was able to kind of move it in that direction with the understanding that like they can agree or not agree.
Yeah, there's still, no, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's still legal matters.
There's still legal matters to do that.
I think what we're saying is we don't want you to have an alternative goal we don't know about.
Yeah, talk about it.
Because if you have an alternative goal that the therapist doesn't know about, the therapist could be undoing something. It's like we're in trouble for undoing something that we didn't even have all the information on because you didn't tell us that there was another goal.
We didn't know that's what we were supposed to be working on.
And so it's almost like if you really did have a goal, like I don't want this kid to have this relationship with so-and-so because it's really a relational thing. I think it's inappropriate. I don't trust them. Whatever. I'd rather have that dialogue with you without the kid, right? With the parents, than to have we're going to come in here and I really want this relationship to work. But deep down in your mind, you're like, if it doesn't work, that's fine.
And I think it's safe. And there are ways. We're gonna figure it out one way or another if you're not clear with us at the beginning.
But then it feels deceptive, doesn't it?
It does, but then it also becomes very clear too, because I know Janan and I've been in a session with her. She's been, I don't know, we were in a session together, and I think either I or her asked the question, well, would it just be easier if that other parent just disappeared? They just went away. And when they say absolutely, that tells you everything.
Yeah, that's really where I am. Yeah.
I would be happy for them to have a relationship with a child if they just signed away their rights. And then we can really see if they want to be a parent.
You've heard that before?
Sure have.
Oh my gosh, man.
Sure have.
That's heavy. That's heavy.
And it lets you know where they're at. But in those moments, I know where we're going, right? So I would have preferred if it was clear at the beginning.
There it is right there. Clarity. It's about clarity.
I mean, clear expectations from the start is essential.
What do we say here? Clear as what?
Clear as kind. That's a shirt. That's a hat.
That's a hat. We didn't say it. That's a Brene Brown statement. Clear as kind. Brene Brown says that. So we took that. Thank you, Brene. Thank you, Brene. We appreciate that.
For a lot of things.
Yeah, exactly.
But
so
I think that's part of it to kind of ensure that we don't get misaligned. Having clear expectations is important from the first one. And I think one of the first things we do, at least I do, and I can speak for probably most of us in this office, is, when first session, what are your best hopes? What do you want to get out of this? That is the moment that I'm looking for. You know what? I don't want to do this. I don't want to see my dad. Or, you know what? I hope we have a great relationship.
You made me think of something. I'm wondering if we could help the parent more too by asking the alternative. So what are your best hopes for this? But then asking, if those hopes were to be realized, what's your greatest fear?
Oh, what's your greatest fear?
Yeah. Either of the hopes coming true or the hopes not coming true. Where's the fear? What are you afraid of? Because I'm wondering if that would give us more insight to what's maybe holding them back, or the reason that they won't let you, I can't let you see the vulnerability I have. I can't let you see everything because they don't know how they think we're going to use it in some way to hurt them.
Mm-hmm. I think what it does too is it also creates the dialogue of like what other alternatives there are, right? So it's kind of a little bit of like, okay, let's think this through. Like, okay, that's the worst case scenario. How do we prevent that from happening in a way?
Yeah.
Because in the past, I've had a parent where we talked about that, where, they said, the worst thing that could have happened last summer, where the judge took the kid and just popped him back to the other one. And after that, I know now going to this, I can survive that. I know what it is. Like my greatest fear, I overcame it. Not great, took a while, but it was able to do that. And that was so powerful for them that I think it speaks to that question, like, what is your greatest fear? And so you don't have to be
of your hopes not being realized.
So you don't have to be chained to it anymore. Because when we've talked about this before, fear makes us dumb.
Fear makes us emotional. And we know that our brain, when we're super high emotion, we're not logical.
Right. And we react
So that's the
poorly.
idea of becoming dumb, right?
Yeah, you react poorly. You
react in fight or flight.
You respond in a way that you get on Our Family Wizard at like 2 a.m. and, say things, make threats. Don't do that, please, listeners. Please don't do that.
I think, like, I go back to something. If you think you're doing too much, you probably are. Less is more in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Right? I think I'll tell you about a juvenile case I had once. So I'm working with juveniles, right? And I did this work with this kid and his mom, and they were getting into a lot of disagreements and stuff. And I'll never forget this. So funny. So mom says that this kid is extremely disrespectful. Okay. Just like goes on and on about how disrespectful this kid is. And I'm hearing all the complaints. And the kid's just sitting there. He's taking it. All right. Doesn't interrupt. Doesn't say anything. I turned to the kid and I said, how would you know if I was being helpful? I heard everything your mom's saying, the concerns that she has, but how would you know if I was being helpful? And he says, I don't think you're going to help because all my mom sees is everything I do wrong. She never sees anything I do right, blah, 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 whatever. So you can tell the kids at this point, he's kind of lost in it. He's frustrated. So I have this meeting with this kid at the school because we used to do school visits and we did home visits, remember? So I did the school visit. And anyway, this kid came up with this idea, which is when I get really mad at my mom, I pop off. I say really rude things, which is not who he really wants to be.
Right.
So he made a decision that when mom's going off on him, he's going to separate himself from the conversation because he knows if he doesn't, he's going to make it worse. So I come back to see them at the house. I do a home visit as after this has gone on for a while. And I asked mom, what's better? She says, it's worse. And I said, well, help me understand. And she says, now when I'm talking to him and I'm telling him stuff, he just walks away. He's completely disrespectful. So she's seeing it as he's walking away from me. He is a disrespectful kid. He's like, she was feeding that right into. So then I looked at the kid and I said, how does walking away help? I knew that he was doing it for a different reason, but I didn't correct it. I just asked him, how does walking away help? He says, I know that if I stay in that conversation, I'm going to say something I'm going to regret. I'm going to pop off on my mom, which is exactly what she doesn't like. And so by walking away, it keeps me from saying something I don't want to say. And so the silence was designed by this kid, right, as a way of protecting. But mom saw it as a disrespect. And how often do you think that's happening with
everybody, everything,
everyone,
everywhere, everything all at once?
So if parents would remember that instead of just going all these hidden agendas, you're obviously responding because for some reason you really believe this is the best thing. Most parents, like, no one thinks even the villain thinks they're the hero.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where one of the greatest things. One of my old coworkers I used to work with, she used to say, "Assume good intent."
Tell us, go over that.
And so she would always say that, like, the intention is not to go and make this the worst thing possible. It's about, I want good, right? And maybe it's me being naive at whatever age I am. We're not going to get into that with me, but maybe I'm still a little naive from being younger. But I genuinely believe that people want to do good for the most part, right? I think for the most part, people want to do good. People want to get along. People don't want to spend thousands of dollars in court fighting over things. They don't want to mess up their kid. They want to do well. So what is the good intent behind it? Because how often has, well, they said, well, what's going on? And it's like, well, yeah, because they're asking what's happening with the kid. You're reading tone into there, right? Like we can assume good intent. We can assume their intention based on what's happening.
I like that.
And I think I really do ask when I'm doing a parent session or even couples or even with the kids themselves, I ask, let's assume good intent. Because does your dad, when you guys have dinner with dad, does he go into there being like, I'm going to make this the worst dinner for this kid. I'm going to make him hate me so much. I can't wait. And when I say it like that, the kid laughs and it's like, no, probably not. And I'm like, do you? Do you go in there being like, I'm going to make it so bad? There are children that do, though. There are some times where they try and provoke.
100%.
But I think the intention is like, okay, But what is the intention of the parent?
Well, the feeling is they're doing this on purpose to penalize or punish.
Right.
Right. They know I don't like it, but they're doing it anyway to punish me because they're mad at me.
To make me
and
do
so,
yeah.
and let me say this to the listeners. When you take an assumption and make it true, or you take your own version of truth because of your experiences, because your experiences are shaping your realities, and you maintain that truth and you're not willing to look at it from any other perspective, you've already lost. Right? Like if Democrats won't talk to Republicans, we're going to lose. Both sides have to. Here's the fun part. Don't both sides say they have an interest in our country?
Yeah.
So why do we have two parties? If they both have an interest in our country and improving our country, then why do we have two very different views on what that's supposed to look like? Why does that exist?
I don't have an answer for that, I hope.
And is this any different than a mom and a dad?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I'm there.
If America, okay, so you have Republican, Democrat, and you have America, okay? Both of them are going to say they have the interest of or their country in mind. Every Republican candidate, I can't think of one that wouldn't say that. So they're going to say, I want what's best for America, Democrat. Republican says, I want what's best for America. Two very different ways of how they think America should look to make it that way. America represents the kid. Republican, Democrat represents mom and dad. And I'm sitting here going, if you would just learn to go this way, because if you're only a Democrat talking to Democrats and you're only a Republican talking to Republicans, we're going to get split real fast.
Well, and again, it goes back to what is our role? Our role is to help facilitate a conversation, a perspective, so people can be heard and understand.
Our role.
Our role. That's our role to help facilitate that.
So maybe what we're telling people is we are the facilitators of conversation that lead you to a place where you solve problems without the necessity of all the third parties.
Hopefully. I try.
Try.
I feel like we try here.
So full circle here, Armando. I noticed you put transparency as key. We talked about being open about that. Continue to focus on the kid and detriangulate, which we talked about in the Asian series, right? Bringing everyone in. Discussing the cases where we're able to navigate. Now, there's a couple of spots, if I can just retouch on.
Yeah.
Define the court order, speaking to attorneys when needed, and building a rapport to create therapeutic allegiance or alliance. So can you just kind of go over those?
Yeah, so I think part of being able to navigate, cases is when we find that misalignment, it's important that we can question it. We can say, hey, I think, are you working because of the questions I've asked, you're doing this, I'm doing that way. And I think that's where rapport becomes so critical to do it, because if you don't have the rapport, you're going to have an angry, pissed off person in front of you, and you're going to lose any and all work or help.
I just realized when you said that, what's happening is you have two co-parents that probably don't trust each other. It's always the base, isn't it? We don't trust each other. Then they have a bad experience with court or their attorney. They don't trust the system.
They don't trust us.
And that's what I was about to say. They walk in, see us, we're on a court order, and they go, I can't trust you either. And then what happens when that happens, Armando? What starts to happen?
They're not honest. They hide agendas. They'll do counterfeit yeses. They're not actually open. And I think one of the things that I always ask parents when I bring them in is, I have them scale how much they trust the other parent. And that usually lets me know how much they're open or not open to trust me. So that lets me know how much I'm going to have to work on that rapport initially.
Exactly.
But I work really hard to build rapport with everybody so that I can challenge when I need to and ask questions and come from a place of care and concern. And I think that's important. And I think going over the court order is also important early on to say, hey, this is what your order says. This is what I'm reading it as. Do you understand it? Do you have any questions? What is your understanding of it? So that all of that gets, and then if need be, clarify with attorneys or have them clarify with their attorneys. I'm not above them saying, hey, you know what? I can't answer this for you. I don't know, or you're not going to take my word for it. Go ahead and call your attorney. They can call me. Maybe I'm wrong. It does happen on occasion. I am wrong. So
we're human, man. We do that. It's funny. As you were talking through that, I remember a case. I had a kid sit down with me, and he asked me a question. I was so proud of him. He looked right at me and he says, why should I trust you?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, I loved it. Mm-hmm. And I said, you shouldn't. And I think it surprised him. He went into shock. And I said, can I explain why I said that? And they were like, now they're interested, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah. And I said, I've not given you a reason to trust me, but I've not given you a reason to not trust me. And with everything you've probably been through, I bet it's really hard to know who you can trust.
Right.
And I'll be honest, I don't know you guys either. Not many people come in here and show me who they really are. They show me the version that they want me to see. And so I struggle too with the same thing you're struggling with. So I'll make you a deal. If at any point in this process, you feel like there's things that I'm doing that are extremely helpful to you, tell me what that is so I learn what's working. And if at any point in time in this process, you get to a place where you feel like you can't trust something or something about me or whatever, correct me.
I think that's important. I think that transparency is everything. I do something very similar to both kids and parents, especially with reunification cases where we're trying to go, we want to make sure the kid is comfortable building that relationship. Sometimes there's a safety concern.
Correct.
And I will always tell a parent, either side, you know what, if I'm suggesting something or we're talking about something and you want to know what it is, ask me. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I pushing in that direction? Why am I going that direction? I'll tell you. I don't have a problem unless I really don't know. And I'll be like, I'm just throwing stuff on the wall. But usually there's a method to the madness. And I want to be clear with you. And I usually tell a kid pretty up is like, this is why I want to do this, because I want to see, let's see what dad or mom does to react that way. But we're going to do it in a place that you feel comfortable and safe as best we can.
Well, you have it right here. Transparency is key.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome, Armando. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with? I like that. We were so everywhere, but I think it was so important that we touched on all those things.
I mean, I think the main takeaway I hope that our listeners have is that when they walk into any therapy office, and it is scary, it's hard to be vulnerable, it's hard to kind of let it out and be honest with who you are, what you want, what your expectations are, and maybe you don't even know, and that's okay too. Say that. Say, I'm not really sure what I want out of this, but I'm open. And I think that's what's important. So I think that's what happens because it just makes everything easier, y'all. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. This job is hard. Not being aligned just makes it that much harder. And
we don't have to convolute this thing.
Yeah, let's not make it harder. I mean, in all honesty, and that's, if you're seeking help, be honest.
I want to thank those of you that have come in good, and I'll say in good faith, to the therapeutic process, and the ones that we've gotten to serve. We've learned from all of it. Mm-hmm. The ones that didn't come in good faith, the ones that have, we've learned from all of it. Obviously, this is why we can tell you what we tell you now. However, we want to do our best work, and to do our best work, we want to make sure that we can align in a way that is the most helpful for you. And if you don't agree with something, tell us.
Please.
If you don't understand something, tell us. Like, let's walk through that. The more flexible you are, right, the better this becomes. It's like the limb on the tree. I think we talked about this in one of our other podcasts, remember?
It breaks if
the trees cannot do this in the wind, the limb will break.
He's waving his arm, listeners that are listening on.
That's right. So you have the flexibility. If the rubber band can't be pulled, it will break, right? So it has to have that flexibility. Otherwise, it will. Now, you can stretch it too far, right? And it feels like it's going to break. And you might feel like you're stretched too far. You're coming to therapy to undo that, right? To relax that situation. So anyway, I want to thank you so much for being here. Armando, this was an awesome topic. I don't know if we're going to have a part 2 to this or something, because I think there's much more here.
It'll come out in a different way, I'm sure. I don't know.
I have a feeling too.
This isn't what I asked for, but this is what I'm getting, I guess, part 2. This is what was given to me.
What do I do with this now?
Yeah, what do I do with this?
Yeah, now that it's here. So I want to thank you so much for being here. You keep moving forward, everyone.
Thank you.